Hi, my name's Kirsty Page, and in this recording, I want to particularly look at the skill value of drawing for developmental skills, but also with that mindset of having drawing as a really fundamental part of my writing preparation diet, but also understanding how having lots of drawing experiences alongside the earlier, more formal teaching of actual writing will further develop the skills that children need to be ready to write, but to also support ongoing progression, and that all important strong skill base that will allow a child not just to write sentences that have been dictated by somebody else, but to have the skills that they need to be a strong and independent writer with their own ideas and language base for that. So this recording kind of sits on the back of a more general recording about creativity. So I'm not going to reduplicate content here. I'm just going to think about the real true value of drawing as an aspect of creative play in its own right. So, of course, drawing creates opportunities for children to develop the very specific fine motor skills that will feed into writing. So, of course, when children are younger, we give them big creative opportunities to draw so that children can draw from the shoulder, and then we see that children will increasingly draw and paint, but let's stick with drawing in this recording, from the wrist. And then eventually what we will do is we will see an increased level of finger-based drawing, but also that as children draw schematically, that they will draw at finger level, but still utilize their shoulder to help them kind of move around and draw things in different places. So I think it's very important that we create that set of experiences where children can have those big mark making and big drawing opportunities, and that we keep those going for longer, because for some children they'll need to go back to those early experiences and be at an earlier level of success. But alongside that, over time, I increasingly create opportunities where children can draw on paper, but also even creating opportunities where children can draw as and when they're ready on little bits of paper. And when I do that, I shift the focus to very much finger-based drawing, but also that kind of little detail of drawing that I will increasingly get when children are drawing something little, as opposed to when children are drawing something bigger. So it is not that I have big mark making and then I am saying that as children get older, only give them little. I'm talking about a balance, but what I am saying is to ensure that children also have small drawing opportunities as their skills develop, as well as ongoing big opportunities and middle-sized opportunities at the same time, we will develop a different set of skills. And in the same way as if I'm doing big painting, you will see a different set of skills emerge if you allow me to do smaller paintings and smaller with smaller brushes as I get not that much older, but a little bit older. So within all of that, of course, when it comes to drawing, we know about making sure that children with earlier levels of fine motor success have access to chunky pens, chunky chalks, palm, things that they can hold with a palm grip, and that over time we will kind of ideally see that change towards a cluster and towards that kind of tripod grip. So that's kind of all really, really important for fine motor development and for paving the way for future writing. In a little tiny bit, we're going to talk about drawing together and creating targeted um, drawing opportunities. But let's kind of go back to just kind of more learning environment focused drawing first. As well as fine motor, of course, drawing, like all creative experiences, it is a great opportunity to develop symbolic skills, but also this idea generation. And what we will notice is that some of our children will spontaneously start to draw because of this ability to generate an idea and to symbolize something in the real world by drawing it. And that's that really important language based same skill that will be used in writing. And as children draw multiple characters, or as children learn to draw schematically, where they will not just draw a character, but they might put elements in the background, or there will be elements of what is happening in the picture. This is where we see drawing very, very much correlate with early storytelling skills and the language around what they're thinking as they're drawing something happening in a picture, or as they're drawing two characters that fit together in a certain way. We see why drawing is so fundamentally important. However, we need to realise that for some of our children, particularly children with language delay, children with more disordered patterns of language development, that they might not get the symbolism of drawing, or to get this idea that you can think of something and then you can manifest it on a piece of paper. And so for some children, we need to realise that with drawing, we actually need to go back and teach them how to draw, show them what this drawing is all about. So within the world of early years, there's so much about creativity, and we shouldn't limit children's experiences, and we shouldn't limit children's imagination. And I completely get that. But what I'm talking about is putting in some adult support when a child doesn't know how to draw. So I can't just put my creative materials out and expect a child to engage with it. They'll either not engage with it at all, or they'll engage with it in a way that is not fueling kind of that journey towards creativity. But all too often they'll just not engage with those materials at all. And so for me, it's about very much putting in that time and support to explore these materials together, to show children how to use them, how to make marks on the paper, and also to model myself drawing very simple things. And a really useful thing to add to the repertoire for children like that is to do some drawing together, where you start a drawing and that you encourage the children to complete the drawing. So it might be that I draw an outline of a car, and then, we need some wheels on, so that the child contributes to my drawing. Or I draw a circle, which is going to be a face, and I might put the nose on, for example. But we need eyes and we need a mouth. And this is not about me stifling a child's creativity. This is about me putting in the foundation building blocks that will allow that child to bridge that gap and to begin to explore and to use those drawing and mark making materials independently in the future without me. But without that bit of adult input, if I don't put that input in, that child may just continue to not access drawing for a long period of time. So let's kind of think about that balance as well, about spontaneous child-led drawing within my learning environment, and maybe from 3 to 4 years onwards when children are ready. So not children where I'm tracking right back into the red, but as I'm building skills through my 3 to 4 year old provision, and certainly in reception alongside the early teaching of writing. I want to kind of have drawing as an ongoing big part of my writing preparation, and then to sit alongside the more formal teaching. And I might want to still have that ongoing, purely creative, purely child-led experiences in my learning environment, but I might want to also use drawing as a tool to build certain skills. So let's talk a little bit about what that might be and what that might look like. Certainly, I'm a big fan, once children are ready, of supporting them to make observational drawings, be that of a bunch of flowers, be that of something that we found together outside, be that an object that's linked to the story that we're sharing at the minute. What that is kind of up to you, but it's that idea of really asking a child to look closely and really develop that visual discrimination and looking at the detail, and then drawing that using those fine motor skills. But as we look at that object together, and as we draw it together, then we have a really rich bank of vocabulary around the names of not just the whole object, but the parts of the object that we are drawing, but also that directional concept vocabulary that is so important for early letter formation and for early writing. I also, in addition to observational drawings, might want to model myself drawing something, which again might be linked to something that the children are interested in at the minute, or linked to a story that we're sharing. But when we're drawing together, and this is particularly as I'm working my children towards readiness and also to sit alongside early writing and reception, I might want to choose to model and to draw using certain particular movements. So I won't want to draw something, be it a pirate ship or whatever it may be, but that has deliberately got some circles in, and I might model drawing some circles in a clockwise manner and some circles in an anti-clockwise manner. That pirate ship would also give me the opportunity to draw some very specific movements, some tunnels and some waves, which are very important writing movements for certain letters. And as we do things like the not the mask at all, the mast and the flag, it can also create lots of opportunities, if my children are ready, to model certain things like drawing a line going up and then retracing that line, which is a movement I will need to write things like D, for example. It could be that I want to draw a line and then change direction whilst keeping that line going, so that I see that nurturing those movements that will come together for letter formation, particularly for more complex letters like D or like K. don't have to be nurtured just through writing. I can specifically nurture them through the act of drawing if I carefully think about where are my children now and who might be ready to just slowly be nurtured with this skill, but in that very safe context of all we're doing is drawing a pirate ship together. So these are really important things to think about. And if I'm creating those targeted opportunities, I can constantly be looking at how different children are able to make those movements. Is that something that they found easy? Is that something that they really struggled with, and this idea of changing direction or retracing was very, very tricky for them? So that's something that I might need to nurture a little bit more with that skill, that child. Or it might be that I even need to go back even further because that was actually too tricky. These are really useful things for me to create opportunities for, but then as I observe, I can work out where my children are, so that if I'm in reception and I want to nurture the fine motor elements of writing, of course we're going to be doing letter formation in reception, but I can see that I have a mechanism for continuing to build those very same movements and mechanisms, but it doesn't always have to be doing more and more writing. And as we do that, we build language around the drawing as well. I also just want to kind of finish this section off with as well how drawings can help me with the language around the actual act of drawing, and then the language around what it is we are drawing. But again, remember that drawings, when my children are ready, are great opportunities to draw and to talk about emotions, which is kind of empathy, and these kind of pragmatic skills, which will feed into higher level writing skills as a child gets older, but also that inference and prediction. So, where do you think that mummy might be going? What do you think might happen next? Or what do you think she's going to buy when she gets to the shop? So again, these are very, very important reading comprehension skills, but they will very much feed into writing as well. And that ability to infer and predict and to think about what that mummy might do or how that mummy might be feeling is a really important set of skills in that social communication, pragmatic area of language, where I am beginning to put myself in the shoes of the character within this drawing, and building those skills will reap a lot of reward, will create a lot of benefit as that child gets older and moves into independent writing, where I'm going to have to expect them to write in different ways for different audiences, and to write in a way that creates certain emotions and feelings within the person who's going to read what the child has written. And that mainly flows from this pragmatic area of Launchpad and of child development. Well, this recording comes from newsletter 4. We're going to unpick some other types of play and experiences in relation to pre and early writing. But if you're interested in CPD outside of the newsletters, do remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then all CPD opportunities will come into your feed to use for yourself and with your team. Thanks so much for your time.